You're very welcome to this webinar on the latest release in March. So we've just launched the release there yesterday live on your system. So today's webinar is all about all the wonderful improvements and enhancements that we've brought to the user interface for you. So obviously, if you have any colleagues that potentially might miss this particular webinar, this will be recorded, and of course you'll have access to that through our website. So thank you for joining me today, wherever you are. I'm Sharon Mulligan, the product expert here with Enterpryze. So I'm just going to start off here by showing you exactly what we're going to cover off in today's webinar. So just as a reminder, obviously, ultimately, anything that we bring you in terms of the monthly releases, those updates are seamless. And of course, we make sure that we don't affect you in terms of downtime, so that when you log in, for example, yesterday morning, Monday morning, you have access to all the greatest, to all the latest benefits and improvements within the system. So in terms of what we've done this month in particular, in March, it's all around the user experience. So what we've done is we've enhanced the user experience. So we've made it more intuitive with the design, so you can navigate effortlessly and easily around the system. And of course, this is going to help streamline learning for your teams, for your organization, and of course, make tasks quicker to complete. So with that, of course, comes increased efficiency. So with that, we've obviously reduced the number of clicks needed to get things done. So with the improvement on searching and filtering, so you'll be able to find information instantly with quicker access. Better data visibility. So you'll see that in particular when it comes to the changes that we've brought around CRM and services, where you'll have clearer insights with improved dashboards and progress bars to enable you to make decisions faster and see information up to date, and of course, always in real time. But ultimately, our goal with all of these improvements is to ensure that we look at the future customization, and we're always building for the future. So more optimized workflows means faster response times, personalized options, so you'll be able to collapse and expand those options in the future, so to make the screens work for you that you need to use day to day. And I'll explain that, of course, as we're doing the live demonstration. So ultimately, all of the enhancements are designed to make work smoother for you and faster, and certainly more efficient. So always bringing you value and benefits and improvements that enhance your day-to-day within your organization. So just as a reminder, if you haven't yet seen the list that's available in the latest news section in the Help Center, help.enterpryze.com, just to mention that there's a banner on your web app that you can look at to access that specific article, where you can see a list of all of those improvements and, of course, get access to the product tours to take you through those changes step by step. So in terms of our CRM, very simply what we've done here is improved the overall user interface. We've done that throughout the pipeline view and also on the lead screen. So when you're adding, viewing, or editing a lead. In addition to that, we've got some wonderfully added Wyze Panels, always bringing the Wyze Panels in, of course, to give you access to information faster, but directly from the grids themselves. So without having to drill into the detail of the lead itself, that you can access the required information directly from the grid. So whether that's updating the lead, whether that's checking out information that's been added to the comments, or even looking at the stage history to see how that particular lead has progressed through the pipeline. In addition to that, we have the services. So again, with the improved user interface on the service calls. So again, we have changed the setup and design for adding, viewing, and editing service calls. So you will see again, like what we've done already and delivered to date around all the different transactions, where you have the different panels laid out on screen, and you can follow the addition of adding your service call or your lead from top to bottom on the screen itself. In addition to that, more great Wyze panels. So you'll be able to update your service call at header level directly from the grid itself. And I've just mentioned here some of the fields that you can bring in through the column chooser, where you'll be able to see the purple Wyze tag, click on the purple highlight, and then go in to update your service call. You'll be able to use the advanced emailing button, which is the share button on the service call as well. So we have that already throughout all of the transactions. So we're now leveraging that also within your service call screen. We have a nice new Wyze panel for when you're setting your service call as recurring. So when you click on your actions and go to recurring, you'll have a pop-up Wyze panel where you can specify the recurring that you require. So whether that's weekly, quarterly, monthly, yearly, and you can set all the parameters that you need for that particular service call. We'll also have a grid Wyze panel for the resource planner. This is a great addition. In fact, it's not only applicable to our services, it's also applicable to your sales orders and sales deliveries. So again, directly from the grid itself, you'll be able to click on a schedule date where you'll get access to the pop-up Wyze panel for your resource planner and schedule that specific transaction from the grid itself. And last but not least, just a couple of more Wyze panels that I'm going to touch on before the live demonstration. This is all again geared towards sales and purchases. We have a fantastic addition to our sales and purchase transactions, which is being able to show you historical prices for items. And very simply what that means is that anything that you've invoiced your customers and your suppliers, all those regular stock items, you'll be able to do an historical price lookup directly on the screen that you're on. So for example, you might be in a sales order, or you might be adding a delivery for your customer, and you want to check to see, well, the last time that I ordered or that the customer ordered that particular item, what price did I sell it to them? You can check those historical prices directly on screen. So we can do that throughout our sales and our purchase transactions. I've mentioned already about the grid Wyze panel for the resource planner, which is against our sales orders, deliveries and service calls, and I'll show that to you in the live demonstration. On the item details Wyze panel, so this is where you're already adding your items on your transaction screen, and as you know, you get a pop-up Wyze panel to populate, for example, the quantity and the price. We also have enabled the discount percentage entry on that Wyze panel. So that's the nice new addition on that screen. We also have a new Wyze panel for when you're receiving in goods that have a zero value. So what we've introduced here is a warning. So when a purchase order, for example, or you go to bring a purchase order to a goods receipt and the price on that purchase order, for example, is currently zero, when you go to add the goods receipt or the purchase delivery, you will get a warning to say the zero stock value on this. Do you wish to proceed? Or you can check the line and actually populate a unit cost at that point in time before you proceed. So therefore, always ensuring that your stock valuation is correct and anything that's received into stock has a current value. And last but not least on the list here is a Wyze panel for updating the document header. What we've done is throughout all your sales and purchase transactions and also on the lead screen, you'll have a nice new little icon that will allow you to open up the transaction directly from the grid, as opposed to having it to open it up into a new tab. So lots to show you around the changes. So let's dive straight in to the live system and take a look at everything that we've produced so far. So let me just share my screen with you here. Okay, great. So here we are in the live system. So I'm going to go back and obviously start first and foremost, of course, with the CRM. So we start here in CRM, and we know obviously from the February update that you've got a new dashboard around the CRM. So we can see there that it's been reduced in size, but that doesn't mean that the information isn't just as important, because obviously the data that's here is precise and concise around certain activities within your leads and of course within your pipeline. So let's look at the pipeline view and what we've done here to improve the user interface. So very simply, all the same great options are still here. But what we've done is we've laid out the screen as we have done with all of our other transactions. So we can see here we have panels, and that's the way we've designed everything going forward in panels. So with the title bar on the panel here for the CRM pipeline, you can see here that you have the button here to slide across for switching on or off the show stage details. The same again for if you want to view by month or view by stage. We have the same great search bar to obviously search within the leads that are already there listed below. You have the filter selection for salesperson, closing month, and for different stages. So you can click on each of those. Again, we've got a pop-up Wyze panel to show you what the options are available to you at this point. We've also added a new lead button here on the right, and then below that then for the stage details, very simply, you can see here, for example, under lead, and again, depending on the filter that you've chosen, I can see the total number of leads and I can see the value of those leads. And as before, I get my lead details. I can show more if I wish to, or I can show less. I can add a new activity from here. So this is the new activity button. Once I click on this, this will open up a new Wyze panel that will allow me to populate the new activity details. So you can see there, I can fill in the new activity details as I would do as well as if I was actually on the lead screen itself. So it's exactly the same. And of course, I can complete it from here. I can schedule, select to schedule it as well. I can set a reminder as well, of course, that will appear in my notifications. And of course, the same great thing is with the pipeline, if you want to move one lead from one stage to another, very simply, I can drag the lead across. And of course, I'm going to get a pop-up Wyze panel to add the new stage for that lead. And I can fill in the stage details at this point as well. So nice and simple on the UI, and then moving across to the leads itself. So we land here on the leads grid, and the first change that you can see here on the left-hand side, we have added this new little icon here to open transaction. So this will in effect take me directly through to the lead itself. So once I click on that, I'm directly through to the lead. So looking at the lead itself, you can see visually, of course, everything has changed. So it's opened up on the different panels. Again, I can fill in the screen from top to bottom as I scroll down through. I can see all the information clearly defined. But as I'm viewing the lead, straight away I can see a lot more information about this lead. I can see, well, it's lead number 116. I can see the customer who it's for. And of course, I've got my purple Wyze tag for this, so I can obviously click here to see the company details. I can see that it's open. I can see the value. I can see exactly what it is the lead is about. So they require a new printer. I can see the contact. But more importantly, I can see here a progress bar. So this is already showing me visually how well this particular lead is doing, or in this case, perhaps not doing. So there's 90% chance of this particular lead is going to close, and it's expected to close in one day. If for any reason my lead exceeds the expected closing date, what you will see here visually on the progress bar is that from right to left, the bar will start to increase with a darker color in purple, so that you can see that the lead has exceeded the expected closing date. And in fact, it's going to be potentially a lost lead within some time. But it just means that visually you get the impact of how that lead is actually progressing through the pipeline. In addition to that, we see here we have a bell. So this is actually in line with the option that you already have here in actions, which is to follow that lead. And that's where you want to be notified of any changes that are applied to that particular lead through your notifications. So of course, once I press it in, I can subscribe and follow that particular lead and follow it through the system. And of course, all the other actions are there as before: to send, to email, to print or download. And of course, we can create a new lead, and of course, we can edit that lead. In addition to that, this particular lead is linked to a sales quote. I can see the quote that it's linked to, and of course, through the purple Wyze tag, I can click on that lead and bring that up on screen or open it up into another tab. So scrolling on down, you can see all the same information. You can see there just a couple of lines on the comments. We've got our custom fields. We've got our stage, so everything is just set out within their own different panels. So we can see exactly what stage this particular lead has moved through, and of course any activities that are currently open or closed, and of course if you've linked to any transactions and if you had uploaded any attachments to that particular lead. So it makes it nice and easy to follow through. And if I just go back to the leads grid again, I mentioned about the purple Wyze tags on some of the fields. So if I go across here to where we have current stage, this is the one that we introduced already back in February, where you can click on the current stage and you can see the stage history. Now we've introduced one against the comments field. So this is where I've gone into the three dots, the elliptical menu here, gone into column chooser and simply dragged and dropped the comments field onto my grid so I can view that from here. And basically what this does, it just shows me all the different comments that have been added against the lead. I don't get to update them, but I just get to view them. So again, another quick access point without actually having to drill directly into the grid itself. And of course, that new UI applies when you're going to create a new lead and of course when you're editing the lead as well. So great UI changes there on the CRM. So let's jump over to the services and you will see something very similar around the service calls. I'm going to show you two different types of service calls because of course we've got our service calls, which could be potentially just for maintenance and warranty, or if you're a service industry recording service calls, just for incoming calls coming from customers like ourselves, or you could be managing projects within your services. So let's have a look at the two of those and what they look like on screen as you're adding your service call. So again, when we go to add a new service call, we get all of the great new UI, which is again showing in all the different panels where we move through the screen from top to bottom. So it makes it very easy to navigate and to move down through the fields seamlessly. I'd like to show you one particular great addition that you can see straight away here is the stock item. So for example, if you had items that you had license agreements for with your customer or maintenance agreements over a 12-month or a yearly period that you wanted to keep an eye on those particular contracts, or perhaps you're sending technicians and engineers out on site to do repairs or warranty checks, or whatever the case may be, you can actually link that service call now to a stock item in Enterpryze. So this is for our enterprise only organizations. And just to mention, our SAP Business One organizations, of course, still have the CECs and the customer equipment cards and the contracts when you're adding a new service call. So this is a great addition because what it allows you to do, of course, when you're linking in stock items is expose the stock availability. If you, for example, if you were going to be providing printer cartridges or whatever the case may be, and you needed to replenish that stock in time for the engineer going on site, you can obviously do a quick stock lookup on the availability of the item linked to the service call to ensure that you've sufficient stock before the engineer goes on site. And of course, as you know, with a service call, you've additional transactions that you can process, such as a purchase order in advance of somebody going on site, and link that, of course, back to your service call. So with the service call, again, all the same great additions, your technicians, any roles that you might have assigned to those technicians, assigning it to the scheduler, activities and attachments. So let me just show you two of the different types of service calls that we have. So if I go into this one here first, which is just a standard service call, I've linked it to an item. So as you can see here, we've got the service call number, we've got the customer, I can see that it's open, I can see the priority level that I've assigned to that. So this is all in the first panel. Visually, I can see exactly what's required. So the service call started 1 day ago, so I'm like, grand, we're well within time frame. So if this was based on phone calls and so forth and calls were staying open for too long, you will visually see that straight away on the progress bar and obviously make required decisions to ensure that those calls get closed out on time. Moving across the bar there, again, we have the lovely bell here to be notified of any changes applied to that particular service call, so I can add that to my notifications. This is the share button that I mentioned already on the list. So this is where I now have access to the advanced emailing from the service call itself. We still have the same great actions as before to follow, send, download, etc. Of course, if you need to duplicate. And I mentioned about the recurring. So now when I click on recurring, I get a pop-up Wyze panel. So from here, I can define my frequency and of course, my recurring end date as per normal. So this all performs directly from a Wyze panel. So it's nice and neat and quick to access. And of course, the same great transactions can be created directly from your service call, purchase order, sales delivery, and of course, the sales order, and we can create a new call or we can edit. So just to come down to the part that I mentioned while we were looking at the edits or the add screen, which was the stock item. So now you can see we've got the purple highlight on the stock item. When I click on that, it activates the stock availability. So this is the one that you're familiar with seeing already on your sales and purchase transactions. When you click on the quantity field, you'll now be able to see, okay, we're running low on that particular item. We may need to order more in stock because in fact, we've maybe 2 more trips to do to this customer in the next couple of months. So you can make informed decisions around items that are under warranty and maintenance for the customer. In addition to that, we've also got a tag here on location. So this will activate Google Maps. So again, if you've got an engineer that's looking in on the web app to see, well, look, before I go out on site, where am I going to be going? That you can click on the Google Maps location here to get an idea of where the customer is located. And again, as we scroll on down, we've got all the same great options as we're viewing the service call. You can obviously populate and add activities. You can add transactions, and of course, you can add and upload any amount of attachments that you require for this particular service call. So let's just go back one step again, back to the grid itself, and let's look at a service call related to a project. So the difference here straight away, we can see that the service call, again, we've got the customer details, status, the priority. We can see the service item. In this case, it's for training and onboarding that this particular service call is related to. It was created from sales order 565. So I've got my tag there for that particular sales order, which I can obviously drill into. But you can see here again on the progress bar, so it's already progressed. There's 14 hours on activities with 7 hours completed. So 7 hours have already been completed on this particular activity. And if I scroll down, I can see that straight away on the history of my activities for this particular service call. One's closed and one is open, and the total time and activities is 14 hours. So even by managing my projects directly from the service call screen itself, I get to see exactly where the current status is and just on a visual basis. And obviously to understand if the project has run over time, again, we would have a different color from right to left. If the project runs over the expected closing date, it's going to increase in color from right to left on this side of the progress bar. So a super new addition to the UI. It's given you more information on screen just by visually looking at the service call itself. If we go back a step to the service call grid itself, I mentioned as well about the scheduled start date. So for example, if you hadn't already scheduled the service call, they generally tend to have a scheduled date and end date. But if you want to update the planner directly from the grid, you can. So this is the scheduled start date. And what I've done is, again, through the elliptical menu here, gone into column chooser and dragged and dropped it to the grid. There is in fact also a scheduled end date that I can also place there that can show me when something is scheduled to begin and to end. And of course, if I click, because it's purple, it shows up the Resource Planner Wyze panel, which of course I can actually change from here. So for example, change in date and change in time, or if I want to change the engineer or technician that I've allocated to that particular job, I can do so directly from the Wyze panel on the service call. In addition, I mentioned about being able to update your service call directly from the grid. So there were certain fields I mentioned on the presentation. I've got 2 of them here, which is the status and the technician. So if I click on the status field, I get an update call. So from here, I can update just certain header information against this particular service call. So the status, technician, who it's going to be handled by. If you need to move that particularly into a particular queue, to ensure that that's dealt with maybe by a developer or a specific field of engineers, that you can do so from here. And of course, I can add more details. And this, of course, will update any of the details against the overall service call once I pop them here as well. And of course, if you've got any custom fields that are relating to your service calls, they can also be populated at this point as well. So lots of great new additions there around the CRM and around the services. And as I've said to you, if you want to step through any of these changes, I can show you where you can access those in here in help.enterpryze.com. Let me show you that here. So in the Help Center, we click here. Just a reminder of where all these updates are posted. When you click on News and Updates and go to March 25 updates, you will see that there is a link here to the demo, which takes you through a step-by-step product tour of all the CRM changes, the service changes, and of course, the ones for sales and purchases that I'm going to show you now, and other UI changes that we've also brought to the platform this month. So definitely worth taking a look and being sure that you've educated yourself before you take on any of the new options, or if you want to familiar for new starters as well. So let's just go back into Enterpryze itself, and let me just refresh you on the sales and purchases changes that we've brought to the system. So let me first start off with the sales orders. So I mentioned about the resource planner being also available through the sales order and sales delivery grids. So again, I've got a scheduled start. Again, I've taken this from the elliptical menu here under column chooser. I've dragged and dropped the scheduled start date into the grid. And as you can see here, where we have not applicable, you can actually click on the Wyze tag, activate the same resource planner we saw on services, and begin the process and add it to the resource planner, specify your dates, who the delivery person is going to be or the engineer to go on site. And then that will be added to that particular diary for that person. And of course, if you're using the mobile apps, it will all follow through with notifications to that particular user. In addition to that, as I've mentioned, the same as the CRM, we've got this open transaction button here at the start of the column beside the sales order number. So this is throughout your sales and purchase transactions. So if I click on the open transaction button, and if we start off here, so for example, I want to bring you down now to show you what we can also do in relation to the historical prices. So let me just show you that here. So when you add an item now to any of your sales or purchase transactions, if you have invoiced this particular item to your customer or received an invoice from your supplier in the past with different prices, you will now see a purple highlight on the gross price. When you click on the gross price, it is now going to give you a historical prices list. So this is based on anything that has been invoiced to this particular customer for that very same item. So historically, it's going to show you the price that was allocated at the time for that particular customer. So of course, you can make better informed decisions as to what to invoice the customer for, because they might say to you, well, actually, you gave that to me for 85 the last time. Can I, do I get the same discount? And of course, you can always very quickly check here by clicking on the historical prices to see what it was last invoiced at. So that option is available to you throughout all your sales and purchase transactions, and it's based on the invoices list to your customers and your suppliers. So a great new addition. And of course, I mentioned already about the discount percentage. So let me just activate an item here as if I was going to add it to the document. And if we come down here, you can see to the discount percentage, I can now populate a percentage for the item and add it to the document. So at least now that's done directly from the Wyze panel, as opposed to having to edit the line and then go through the advanced option to add that in. And there we have the 5%. So nice and simple. And if I just come out of that there, so that's everything in relation to the historical prices, the discount percentage. Back on the grid, we have the open transactions, and we also have the scheduling date. And last but not least is the zero value stock warning on your goods deliveries. So if we just head in here to purchasing. So I have a purchase order here that currently has an item with zero stock or with zero cost. So you can see that here, it's the top one here. I'm just going to pop into that particular purchase order. So you can see there, we've got zero cost. I'm going to copy that. It doesn't matter if I copy that to a purchase invoice or a goods receipt as part of the delivery. So if you just bring that to a goods receipt, you can see there, we still have zero. And let's just go to save. And we've got an instant pop-up to say that you've got zero valued stock. So the impact here is that your stock valuation, your gross profit and future transactions will be impacted as a result of having or receiving in stock at zero value. So the opportunity now is to select that line and populate it at a cost. Now, of course, you can continue on with save, or I can populate a cost. So let's just do that now. Let's populate a cost, click on save, and it's going to proceed and save the overall purchase delivery. So as you can see there, it's populated the value. In this particular instance, this particular organization, the prices are set on gross price. So hence it's working back from the 100 to give us the net value of 91 based on whatever VAT is defined against this particular organization. So some very wonderful additions made to March. There's many more. I've mentioned already. There's many more, even more UI enhancements. For example, we've got journal preview that you can activate directly from a Wyze panel on the journal's grids. There is additional columns that have been added to the company's grid. We've also got a banking update where we've added the ability to process a BACS payment file for Bank of Ireland UK. You can also set totals on the incoming and outgoing payments grids. So lots to take on board. So I'd suggest that you take a look at this article, go through the step-by-step to activate the demonstrations and make sure that you have a full understanding of what all of those great additions are. In addition to that as well, of course, if you want to reach out to us, you can obviously contact your account executive, or in fact, if you want to send us your feedback, we'd love to hear from you as well. You can reach out to us at marketing@enterpryze.com. And just a reminder here that the help center, of course, is help.enterpryze.com. And we'll also make this recording available to you on enterpryze.com. Click into resources, into Enterprise University, and you'll have access to this recording either later on today or first thing in the morning. So thank you so much for joining me today. And we look forward to hearing back from you and look forward to hearing about how you're getting on with the wonderful new additions that we've brought to you in March. And thank you again for joining me.